So, welcome back to the BudCast. I'm Corey,
And I'm Millie.
and today we're going to talk about Unit 4, which is managing groups. Um, and I know that all of you not only manage individuals, but you also manage groups or you're engaged with groups. So, Millie, tell us about the four elements of group dynamics and what's interesting about them.
Yeah, well, in this unit, there's a nifty little diagram, let's say, that has a circle in the middle and one circle for each of these elements. And at the top is goals. So that's the what, and that's ensuring the group is clear on what needs to be accomplished. We talked a little bit about setting expectations in our previous unit. And then there's the roles that you need to establish. So that's the who and defining the formal and informal roles so that people understand what lane they're in and you can avoid confusion, people stepping on each other's toes. Then there's the procedures, which is the how. Establishing ground rules and norms for the group and how it operates. And lastly, the relationships. And we refer to that as the anchor. So that's managing how members interact and listen and disagree or
Yeah.
collaborate. So it makes a lot of sense when you think of it in those terms. And I don't think I had thought of it in that way prior to this unit bringing that to my attention.
Yeah, and I think sometimes in our organization, we're so relationship oriented that sometimes we think the only piece of the puzzle is the relationships that people have between each other or the relationships on the team. But clarifying these other things, especially the team goals, it's not just the individual's goals, but the team's goals, and clarifying, just like you did with individuals, the benchmarks, the when you're getting there, the follow up is really important to not only achieve your goals, but to prevent not only miscommunication, bad feeling, and not reaching your goals, which never feels good.
Right. And I think if you reflect on your team and how it operates and you feel like maybe it's not working as efficiently as it should, you can kind of think about these four different aspects and identify if any of them need to be sort of clarified and maybe you reassess that. And I think it's, some of you may be managing people for years, managing a team. And so it's never too late to kind of reassess that and allow people to have input and share. Maybe they want to see their role change on the team. And if that changed, maybe they would be more effective and efficient and more collaborative and cooperative with their colleagues.
Yeah. I'm on a team where sometimes we just assume that everybody knows the process.
Hmm.
I feel like we often just feel like you turn on a light switch and things work, but that's not how anything happens.
Hmm.
Sometimes electricity happens like that. Sometimes it doesn't. So make sure that everyone is clear about what the process is, what the handoff from one person or role to the next is. And that's really important for leaders to do.
Right. And some of us in Best Buddies are managing really large teams. And so one of the tools that is mentioned in this unit is that 7 levels of delegation. There's a video that kind of lays that out. It's a really good one to go back and review if you've forgotten about it. But I know we both have really loved, looking at that tool and thinking how we can apply it. Corey, do you want to kind of explain, just for those that are unfamiliar, what that looks like?
Yeah, let me read it to you guys so I don't mess it up. So it talks about the various levels of delegating. And when you think of the word delegate, you often think of full delegation, walk away. But there's a step ladder to it. And it really helps you and the team, both individuals, build confidence. So the first level is tell, you decide as the manager and you tell others. Sell, you decide and try to convince others. Consult, you ask for input from others, then you decide. I think that's what a lot of us do. Agree, you and others reach consensus, which is one of the most difficult processes, is consensus. Advise, you offer your opinion and let them decide. So I know a lot of people often do that. Certainly in the friendship program, when the program manager is deciding what's their theme and what they're going to do, all those different things, they decide. Inquire, you let others decide and you ask them to explain their decision. And once you get to that level, you're really starting to give a lot of high-level delegation to others. And remember that micromanaging can be a real downside to this. So sometimes others do things just as well as you would. It's just different. And then the final is full delegation. Let them make the decision. And for, as Millie said, those of you with large teams, you might have different program managers in your team doing different things at different levels in their career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's got a lot to do with autonomy, right? And the level of autonomy that folks can have and their independence level. And maybe that's another, I think with almost everything we talk about in these units, it's never just finite where you decide once and never reflect back on it. So this is the kind of thing that as your team gets more experience, maybe they're going to get more autonomy over some of those decisions. But one person can't do it all. So you need to be able to trust and rely on some of the other folks that you work with to be able to take on some of the tasks or the projects that, are part of your goals. So I find this can apply to, things like the standards of excellence for our friendship programs. There's certain things that are baked into the way that we manage, and they aren't kind of up for discussion. Whereas how a chapter is engaging on a day-to-day basis with their program manager, that could look a little bit different, and that allows room for creativity. But we know that there's a certain expectation about the frequency that they're going to be hearing from us. So I think when you think about the things that you're doing as a team and you apply it into this format, you can really help set that structure and those expectations very clearly so that you're efficient and effective in all of your roles.
Right. And remember the GPS Connect page on SharePoint, we do have an aftermarket folder, and we include the Best Buddies Living 7 levels of delegation. It might be something you want to take and clarify for various decisions with your people so they understand the level, and that really is very specific for them, and they don't have to worry about what level they're at. So I think that's a great tool. The next tool is one of my most fun projects from this chapter and from the whole thing, actually, are the brainstorming and multi-voting. And what makes this so good is it's a lot of fun, and it allows a lot of creativity and engages your team. So you can use, I'm sure you all remember both. You can use them together or separately, but those are really great ways to get ideas from the frequent talkers and also from the infrequent talkers, which sometimes because of the disparity of roles or tenure, people might be embarrassed to offer up their suggestions. So it's a great thing to do.
Yeah, you've really done a good job at reminding me of that when we were facilitating. And so keeping in mind that some of you may be having meetings with your team, it's a good thing to think about, because sometimes our conversations are so fast paced, or there's very bold and loud people in the room, myself included. And so you get carried away and you might come to the sort of the end of that specific topic and move on. But you got to remember that there's people in the room sometimes that haven't voiced their opinion. Maybe they feel timid. So Corey has always been helpful in just kind of reminding me to use different techniques so that everyone feels like they can contribute to those conversations and they don't get sort of drowned out by some of the noisy ones like myself. So.
Right. The technique that we learned in GPS about everybody putting their ideas on Post-its, then maybe either working with their group to come to consensus, or taking their Post-it and putting it up publicly, going through that, and then maybe whittling down. That's such a great process, especially if you have, a senior director in the group and a PM in the group. They're both going to be at different tenure levels and experience levels, and the PM might not want to provide their thoughts, and you want to encourage that.
Well, and I realized that I said the magic word a minute ago about something that we have lots of great information and guidance on in this unit, which was meetings. And I think meetings are aplenty at Best Buddies, and we've all been in meetings that maybe could have been an email, or meetings that sort of drift in a lot of different directions, and we don't feel like we're coming out of them with clarity. So in this unit, we talk a lot about how to make those meetings more effective and help make sure that everyone can contribute. So Corey, do you have meetings that you feel are benefiting from some of the guidance in this unit?
I do. I have one meeting that I run that I really struggle creating the agenda, but it really benefits the team. And also it shows respect for their time. Remember, we had everyone in the room add up all their hours of meetings the previous week, and it's a lot. So being respectful, making sure that no meeting is wall to wall, giving them some time back. It becomes a little gift, like they have 5 minutes left or 10 minutes left, is really a great use of your time, but it does require time before the meeting. Some of us just show up. And remember, there's the before, during, and after checklist. And I think that's a great thing for a leader to do for their team and with their team, is make their group time, which is the most expensive time. If you add up everybody's salary for that hour, it's crazy. So make the most of your group time by being respectful and useful of their talents.
Yeah. And there's a big emphasis placed on creating an agenda in advance and sharing it in advance. And that's something I think some of us will always struggle with, but when you do that, you're allowing for the different types of learners in our teams to be able to prepare, because then they're coming to the meeting having put some thought into that topic, and you can come out of the meeting with some more decisions made and action items. The other thing that I thought was like obvious but surprising is just really being clear about the purpose of the meeting. That's emphasized in the unit. And one of the things that isn't necessarily a part of this unit, but is part of our GPS experience that I have really taken to heart, is the idea of a parking lot, so that you don't get off track. You have, if you're not familiar, the parking lot is, maybe it's an online document, or it could be part of your notes in the meeting, or if you're in a physical meeting, it could be what we used, which was a nice little piece of paper on the wall, and giving people the opportunity to get more time spent on that specific topic, but that might not be the time and place for us to dig into it. And the important thing about a parking lot is that you are going back and following up to make sure that that person's topic has been heard and considered. So that's something that I'm going to try to implement in future meetings, as well as our plus deltas. I think getting that instant feedback from people after a meeting is super helpful, so that you can continue to enhance them as you plan ahead for the future.
Yeah, those are all great reminders. You can get copies of the agenda sheet in Word and in an Excel form and in the aftermarket folder. If you want to start implementing, remember, you're not always responsible for every item on your agenda. So empower people to take responsibility, get more involved. And we hope you have great meetings and great group experiences. Remember, we are trying to put all of these BudCasts up on our playlist. So subscribe, send us your questions or your comments. We'd love to hear it. Send it to Corey and Millie at our email addresses with the subject line BudCast. And we will see you on the next one, Unit 5.
Yep. Go out there and have a great meeting.
It was nice meeting with you, Millie.
Same.